very pleased to be with you today. Great opportunity to spend time talking about a very exciting development here in Ohio that really has major global implications. I want to start by thanking the Canton Chamber of Commerce, Timken, a key supplier, Ohio Cat, our independently owned cat dealer, and especially our Caterpillar customers hard at work right here in Ohio. One of the things I have to tell you is that you're going to see some consistency between some of the speakers. As you can imagine, we didn't collaborate on our speeches, so there are some repeats here, but I think that's a good thing because it in fact reinforces some of the points. And I know that we have a wide range of attendees in the audience, some that know this space very, very well. Some are maybe a bit newer to it. So if you'll indulge me, I'm going to step back a bit and talk about the global perspective of what's happening, talk a bit about the U.S., talk about the impact here in Ohio, and then talk about Caterpillar and our interest and our participation in the natural gas value chain. We're here today for a conversation about what is possible today and in the future with Utica Energy. I'll share our perspective from Caterpillar, an industry leader in energy and power solutions and the world's largest manufacturer of diesel and natural gas engines and gas turbines. When many people think about Caterpillar, they think about the traditional construction and mining equipment, but we are in fact a leader in engines and gas turbines as well and are very involved in oil and gas. I'll show you a bit of a repeat here, but I'll start again with a global energy perspective. Headlines earlier this month, this was showed earlier, showed that the U.S. is overtaking Russia as the world's largest producer of oil and gas. I'd be willing to bet that if you asked 95% of the people on the street in America who the largest oil and gas producer is, most would not think about the United States. They talk about Saudi Arabia, they might talk about Russia, other countries. It really is phenomenal what's occurring. According to that same Wall Street Journal article, I quote now, "The U.S. ascendance comes as Russia has struggled to maintain its energy output and has yet to embrace technologies such as hydraulic fracturing that have boosted American reserves." Here's what the head of the U.S. Energy Information Administration said about the U.S. becoming the world's largest energy producer. "This is a remarkable turn of events that you wouldn't in a million years have dreamed about." So we really are living in a very unique opportunity and really a golden age of gas, if you will. Rapid economic growth in developing countries is driving significant demand for commodities, energy, and infrastructure. For the first time in history, half the world's population is living in urban settings. We now have 7 billion people on the planet, and this urbanizing population wants the same things that you and I take for granted in the United States, a better standard of living. More people globally are moving into the middle class. And these urbanizing populations need infrastructure and power, which creates demand for oil and gas and other commodities. Caterpillar customers are helping the world develop, and CAT and our dealers are proud to provide engines, mining and construction equipment, and services to support them. We have a legacy of making the world a better place by improving standards of living through infrastructure development. We're also a major player in the exploration and production of oil and natural gas. The Utica Shale represents a new and exciting chapter in meeting the world's growing energy needs. Let's take a closer look at what a difference a decade has made in the world's natural gas supply. As you're all well aware, new technology such as horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing has allowed shale gas, which was previously uneconomical to produce, to be brought to market. The rapid increase in supply has resulted in very low natural gas prices in the U.S. The low prices represent an opportunity for the U.S. to reduce its dependence on foreign energy sources. Over time, natural gas can have a major geopolitical impact on the Middle East and countries like Venezuela and Russia. You stop and think about the balance of power that the world's been dealing with the last 30 or 40 years. Shale gas really is a game changer. Global energy demand is forecasted to increase 100% between 2000 and 2040. Much of the increase is being driven by economic growth in the developing world. Although renewables and biofuels will grow, fossil fuels are still expected to meet 80% of the world's energy needs by the year 2040. During the same period, natural gas demand is forecasted to increase more than 100%. The growing demand for natural gas is being driven by abundant supply, low cost, and emissions. Due to the availability of natural gas in the United States and the existing infrastructure of pipelines, compressor stations, and other equipment, the vast majority of new power generation capacity installed in the U.S. during the next 25 years is expected to come from natural gas. That same infrastructure does not exist in many other parts of the world and will take time to develop. So this really does create a unique competitive advantage for the United States. You can see here in the brown bars the additional electricity generation from natural gas in the United States is estimated to increase by 3 times over the next 2 decades and is significantly higher than any other source, including renewables, shown in green. North America and the Middle East can produce more natural gas than these areas can consume, but it is the opposite situation in Europe and Asia. There's no single global market for natural gas as there is for oil, but instead there are 3 primary regional markets: the United States, Europe, and Asia. Each market is defined by its own supply and demand dynamics, which results in very different regional prices for the same commodity. Europe depends on Russia for much of its gas, which results in higher prices. Japan is dependent upon LNG, which is sold under long-term contracts typically tied to oil prices. Gas prices in the U.S. are significantly less than oil on an energy equivalent basis, but this is not the case in many areas of the world. The natural gas market is different than the global oil market because gas is difficult to transport. Gas, of course, can be transported by pipeline if the distances are relatively short. For transportation over long distances, the gas needs to be cooled to produce liquefied natural gas, or LNG, which can then be shipped in specialized tankers. The LNG must be reconverted into natural gas in a regasification plant. Export and import terminals for large quantities of LNG require massive capital investments. And just to give you a sense of how things have changed so rapidly in the U.S., 10 to 12 years ago, of course, companies were investing literally billions of dollars in LNG import facilities. Now, of course, everyone wants to build LNG export facilities. So it's amazing how rapid the change has been with new technologies. With the world's ongoing energy needs, we in the United States find ourselves in an oil and gas supply boom. And as you obviously know, it's not just in the Gulf states, it's right here in Ohio. This summer, McKinsey & Company released a study identifying 5 game changers for U.S. growth and renewal. Guess which game changer is the most impactful? Shale energy, both oil and gas. McKinsey's research estimates shale energy could create incremental annual GDP by 2020 of $380 to $690 billion, a 3.7% GDP impact just within the next 7 years. They also believe this would only take 1 to 5% of funding by the federal government. 90 to 95% of the investment would be private, and another 1 to 5% from state and local resources. And further, the jobs impact from the gas and oil production to manufacturing opportunities to services and other sectors could reach 1 million jobs. As a result, communities like Williston, North Dakota, and Canton, Ohio, are increasingly finding themselves in the spotlight of the national energy discussion. For comparison, Williston sits in the midst of the Bakken Shale, one of the largest shale plays in the U.S., and just topped the charts as the fastest growing city in the United States with a population under 50,000. Their economic development director recently shared how their population has tripled since 2010 due to shale energy activity. And while I won't be making any political commentary today, It is certainly positive that the current administration, the federal administration, has publicly supported hydraulic fracturing and its potential for developing significant domestic resources. U.S. Interior Secretary Sally Jewell said in a news conference in May, and I'm quoting, "I know there are those who say fracking is dangerous and should be curtailed, full stop. That ignores the reality that it has been done for decades and has the potential for developing significant domestic resources and strengthening our economy and will be done for decades to come," unquote. One of the debates going on now with this increased supply of natural gas in the U.S. is just how much LNG will be allowed to be exported, and that was mentioned by the Dow speaker earlier. Recently, the Obama administration approved its 4th LNG export facility, and there are nearly 24 awaiting Energy Department approval. Caterpillar believes LNG export restrictions would discourage U.S. energy exploration and economic growth, and the notion of restricting exports would be counterproductive to our ongoing efforts to keep other countries from embracing similar policies. The U.S. has and should continue to strenuously oppose export restrictions imposed by other countries as they seek to gain advantage over U.S. manufacturers and farmers by restricting products like rare earth minerals, scrap steel, and food. Caterpillar continues to believe we compete best in a free trade environment. When trade barriers are removed, we can better meet our worldwide customers' needs. So at CAT, we have the good fortune to serve great industries, but that alone is not enough. We're striving to be a great company and to position ourselves for the long term. History continues to demonstrate that it is not the biggest or the strongest that survives, it is those that adapt. You are adapting here in Ohio as you apply new technologies to this opportunity before you. And we as a company adapt and refresh our strategy to adapt to the ever-changing global marketplace. 3 years ago, we committed in our strategic imperatives to aggressively grow our energy and power systems businesses. And in alignment with that strategy and to support our customers, we have invested in these businesses. 3 of our most recent acquisitions have been in the power, marine, and rail segments. So we are putting our money where we believe the long-term opportunities exist. Caterpillar participates across the entire natural gas value chain. For drilling and pressure pumping, Caterpillar has been a long-time supplier of reciprocating engines and transmissions. With Ariel Corporation, based here in Ohio, we recently created a joint venture called Black Horse to provide well-service pressure pumping products. These pumps are being sold and serviced through the CAT dealer network. This brings our petroleum customers a complete pressure pumping solution backed by the global parts and service support of our CAT dealers. For gas production, compression, and gas transmission, we manufacture Solar gas turbines and compressors and CAT reciprocating engines. On the right-hand side of the chart, there are thousands of Solar gas turbine generator sets converting natural gas into electricity around the world. Caterpillar has been a supplier of natural gas-fired reciprocating engines since the 1940s. We are now investing in new technologies to allow our customers to take advantage of low gas prices in the United States. We are developing dual-fuel products for mining, marine, and rail applications. Just this summer, we released our first dual-fuel engine for marine, which allows an engine to switch fuels to meet various emissions regulations for the waters in which the engines and the boats travel. In the markets of oil and gas, rail, mining, and marine, the performance of the gas engine is paramount to success. In short, it must match the reliability, torque response, and power density of the diesel engine while delivering the fuel cost savings in the dual fuel solution will initially be dynamic gas blending, where the gas is introduced into the airstream prior to the cylinder. The dynamic gas blending has up to a 70% substitution rate, which allows customers to replace this amount of higher cost diesel fuel with lower cost natural gas. This allows customers to achieve significant fuel savings based on the price differential between natural gas and diesel and contribute to more sustainable engine operations. Our oil and gas group is currently producing dynamic gas blending kits for the petroleum market with our Caterpillar 3500 engine. This is delivering real-life customer value directly into the shale gas fields across the country. The product has accumulated 40,000 hours in the field, so we have proven reliability. Earlier this year, we delivered these kits to a well servicing site in the Marcellus Shale in Pennsylvania. A customer also recently installed 2 CAT 3500 generator sets for its operations. These solutions powered the drilling of 8 wells over the course of 45 days, saving the customer $100,000 in fuel costs. Another real-life example is that we are bringing natural gas solutions to the electric power market. One such solution is Rubart Station, the new power plant owned by Mid-Kansas Electric. This 110 megawatt facility will be fully operational within the next year and will run solely on 12 natural gas-fired CAT generator sets. It's kind of an interesting application because it's a large wind farm, but obviously the wind doesn't always blow, and so the backup power that exists will be in fact powered by natural gas engines produced by Caterpillar. We're also developing the next generation of dual fuel technology through a joint development project with Westport Innovations, using Westport's high-pressure direct injection technology to develop an LNG solution for engines used in mining trucks and locomotives. This is ideally suited to high-horsepower applications such as locomotives, as it retains the diesel engine's favorable operating characteristics of high torque and power, transit response and efficiency, while reducing carbon emissions. We are looking forward to a successful demonstration program that can impact the rail industry. While we are innovating, we have the legacy of being a world leader in diesel and natural gas engines for more than 65 years. Our products range from a 7.5 horsepower engine, reciprocating engine, to a 30,000 horsepower gas turbine. Over the last 3 years, Energy and Power Systems has contributed more than 1/3 of Caterpillar's revenue. So it's a very important part of our business and will continue to be going forward. I've discussed Caterpillar's role and strategy for natural gas, but it is the independently owned CAT dealers and our customers in this region that are experiencing firsthand the impact and opportunity of Utica Shale. One of our customers, Interlake Steamship Company in Cleveland, is purchasing CAT's dual-fuel engines to repower 4 1,000-foot vessels on the Great Lakes. This exciting project is the first large-scale conversion of existing ships to LNG and represents a potential market for Utica shale gas. There's a lot of excitement regarding LNG for the marine market. The story regarding LNG on the Great Lakes is a great one for the United States. Interlake is a U.S.-flagged, U.S.-built, U.S.-crewed, carrying U.S. mined iron ore, coal, and stone to U.S. steel producers, power generating companies, and construction companies. Ohio CAT, our dealer here with 21 branches across the state and about 1,000 employees, is working with customers every day at the Utica Shale. Their work is in 3 major phases of activity. The first being initial wells drilled to determine the formation's potential. The second being the infrastructure needed to transport and process the production, which is happening now. And the third being significantly increased drilling activity, which we expect to start on completion of the process plants and pipelines sometime next year. Ohio CAT's business is growing significantly, and they are adding jobs on a regular basis. Our dealer is continuously looking to employ more service technicians, primarily due to projects for Utica shale activity. As the industry is evolving in Ohio, a lot of Ohio-based contractors are doing this work. Beaver Construction, based here, is doing site preparation work at these projects. Deere & Compressor has been a business partner of Ohio CAT and in the compression business for over 50 years. Now with the shale activity, their business is growing. Another example is Kimball Manufacturing, who is growing beyond their core business of cement mixers to make well stimulation trailers used in the hydraulic fracturing process. Knowing Ohio as a hub of transportation activity was a factor in Caterpillar's decision to locate a parts distribution warehouse in Dayton in 2011 that created 500 jobs. You can add that to the multitude of suppliers here in Ohio that are supporting Caterpillar, Ohio Cat, and our customers. There are over 1,300 Cat suppliers based in Ohio, and Caterpillar spent more than $500 million with those suppliers just last year. The Utica shale gas activity is directly creating a large number of jobs, not to mention the additional services support for the food, lodging, retail, and housing industries. Data just released from the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services show that from the fourth quarter of 2011 until the fourth quarter of 2012, statewide employment in core shale drilling activities such as pipeline construction and well drilling rose by more than 1,000 jobs, and as we all know, those are high-paying jobs. I anticipate the next speaker from Jobs Ohio will provide more insight into some of those employment numbers. When compared to other states, the shale gas in Ohio is very rich in natural gas liquids, as we mentioned earlier, which makes the wells in Ohio more profitable than wells in areas which produce predominantly dry gas. Natural gas liquids are the basic building blocks for the development of the petrochemical industry. One of the many downstream opportunities of the oil and gas business is the development of factories to make everything from fertilizer to plastics, as many products are produced using these liquids. A large number of processing plants are being built in Ohio. The processing plants are separating these gases and liquids into pure form so they may be sold for a variety of applications. We are now seeing major interstate pipeline work. Some expect over 2,500 miles of pipeline to be built in the state. All of this leads to the potential for significantly increased manufacturing activity. Some are calling this the golden age of gas. We at Caterpillar are certainly prepared and appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. Caterpillar and our dealers are investing heavily to support our customers in this exciting new industry, and we're committed to meeting our customers' needs across the natural gas value chain. In closing, I'd like to commend the state of Ohio regulators, your Chamber of Commerce and business leaders for their progressive approach in response to the opportunity presented by shale gas in your region. This event hosted by the Canton Chamber gives evidence of your engagement and commitment. I appreciate the time to share my thoughts with you today, and I'll be happy to take a few questions.
Thank you very much, Jim. Everyone in this room can pick a day or a time in the last few years when they became aware of what the Utica Shale was all about and then what its potential could be. You said your company's had an aggressive energy strategy for 3 years now. How long has Caterpillar been aware of what the shale plays could mean to the United States?
Yeah, maybe to give a more expansive answer. So we started producing natural gas-fired engines, as I mentioned earlier, in 1947. And different parts of Caterpillar, again, most people think about that yellow piece of equipment you pass on the road. We've been very involved in oil and gas production for 35 years. And so during the last decade, when a lot of the shale production, exploration, hydraulic fracturing production really got going, we really ramped up our support, as did our dealers, to support this new industry. And it's become very, very important to us. And as we look for areas to invest in the future, clearly that's an area that we're going to be focused on to take advantage of what we believe will be a very long-term opportunity, not just in the United States, but as shale gas opportunities begin to play out around the world.
Questions from the audience. Another question I have is, I'm particularly intrigued by the idea of liquid natural gas railroad locomotives. And I'm sure it's not easy because it might be on the road already, on the rails already if it were. Can you talk a little bit more about the development of that project and how soon it might be that railroads turn in a big way to that alternative?
Yeah, there are certainly, Caterpillar is very focused on providing a LNG-powered locomotive. We purchased electromotive diesel, or EMD, that was part of General Motors for about 35 years. With private equity, we bought it 3 years ago. And we believe there's a tremendous opportunity here. We're working closely with a number of our customers on pilot programs to have LNG locomotives. I suspect that there'll be demonstration products actually operating within the next couple of years. And if in fact the infrastructure is developed to provide the LNG, I believe it could be a significant game changer for the railroads. I mean, the margins are such and the price differential is such for railroads that if in fact they can shave even just a few cents off their fuel cost, it makes a very big difference to their bottom line. So it's just too big of an opportunity to pass up. And I think the railroads and the manufacturers are all very committed to make it happen, and I think it'll be a reality. Again, probably what's going to take the most time, quite frankly, is the infrastructure. But the railroads have the ability to do that. They can invest the capital to have LNG filling stations, if you will, in locations that make sense. So I'm confident it'll get here.
Questions from the audience?
There's a couple in the back.
Over here, I see one.
What type of oil do you use in these engines that would allow you to run this dual fuel idea of yours?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I'm sorry. What kind of oil?
The lubricant in the engine oil.
Okay, I'm gonna get some help from my technical expert here. I think it's standard that we use in every other engine, but Joel, where are you? All right, so no special oils required. Same thing as a typical, normal Caterpillar diesel engine.
Was there another question back here? Yes, ma'am. Pardon me. And thank you.
Hi, Jim. I was wondering, since CAT's a leader in generation and turbine technology, are you utilizing any of the, quote, wind, if anyone that's worked on a pipeline knows, flows through the natural gas pipeline to generate a turbine that would create electricity? Are you doing any technology like that? Have you designed anything similar to that?
So you mean like expanders? You mean so you're talking about when natural gas flows through a turbine to produce electricity, or are you talking about
well, when natural
wind
gas
turbines?
flows through a pipeline itself, it creates its own generation of flow and pressure. So
Right.
there's a wind, quote, going through that. Is there any turbine technology that's injected into that line, or where that flow can be utilized to take a turbine and then generate electricity by running a generator off that turbine?
Understood. So our primary focus, and what we've been doing for many years, is we sell reciprocating engines that drive reciprocating compressors that compress gas down a pipeline. We also, our Solar Gas Turbine Division manufactures gas turbines that drive centrifugal natural gas compressors, which we also manufacture to compress gas down a pipeline. The short answer to your question is no. We're really focused on compressing the gas down the pipeline and moving it. There are certain companies that are involved in certain technologies, and it's been around a long time. They used to talk about it as kind of this city gate kind of situation where there's a large interstate pipeline, and going into a city, as the pressure is brought down, there's an opportunity to, in fact, extract power from the gas that has already been compressed to produce a small amount of electricity. Those manufacturers are out there. That's not something we're involved in. We don't see it as a huge opportunity, quite frankly. We think there's more of an opportunity, and we've seen it happen in supplying gas turbine-driven compressor sets to move all this new gas that's being produced by shale gas. One of the interesting phenomenons here is that you think about the natural gas pipelines infrastructure in the United States. It was really based upon moving gas from the Gulf Coast and from Canada to consumers of the gas. Now, of course, that we have natural gas being produced in non-traditional kinds of places like Ohio, it requires new pipelines. In some cases, it requires existing pipelines to be reversed in flow, and that's created a lot of great business opportunities for our gas turbines and our compressor business.
One final question.
Thank you very much. Over the last years that you've had both diesel and nat gas engines over that period of time, could you make a generalization as to the reliability and cost of maintenance, a comparison, say, diesel engines versus natural gas?
Very good question. So one of our premises going in is that our dual fuel engines or our natural gas engines have to be just as reliable as our diesel fuel engines, or our customers won't accept them. Our engines are used in very tough applications whether it's rail, mining, power generation. So in terms of reliability, in terms of, as I mentioned earlier, torque response, it has to be the same. And so we also don't believe there'll be a large disparity in cost either. So again, we need to provide the same, at least the same kind of operating parameters that our customers see for traditional diesel engines.
Well, I want to ask you to thank Jim Umpleby for being with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.